Well, hello everybody, welcome back. In this short video, I'm going to be summarizing my live demonstration on this next activity called Stylized Vector Portrait. So this is a little bit of a departure from our branding exercises and activities that we've been doing because I wanted to feature a feature in Adobe Illustrator, and that is called the image trace function. So as you can see in my examples that I have here, I've got an image of myself and then a vectorized and recolored version here. So essentially, what I did is I took a photo selfie actually of myself. This is me at an art fair that I was working, and I just took a photo of it. I wanted to show it to you because I actually did crop quite a bit out of it. There was lots more image area on the top, on the left-hand side, and a lot on the right side. So when you choose your image, you're going to want to crop it in and minimize the background because this is an activity where the focus is on the subject and the background should be minimized. So make sure you do crop your image. The final result, and this is what it looks like in Illustrator. So I'm going to go through how I did this. Now this follows the activity page pretty much step by step. So after you've created your canvas, 8 by 10 inches, either portrait or landscape orientation, go ahead and place your photo. So it's place. Move this over so I can actually do it. And click and drag your loaded cursor. Okay, so I've already cropped this photo. If you didn't crop it previously to bring it into Illustrator, you can simply click on the crop image button up here. Now I have the control panel open. I recommend you have the same, but if you don't have it open, you do need to for sure, and we will be using the properties panel where you can choose crop image here too. Okay, so the reason why I asked you to turn on your control panel is because there is a button down here, a shortcut to just do an image tracing. To make things a little bit easier for you, get rid of that. The control panel is helpful because here the image tracing button has a down menu selection item here, so you can select different types of image tracings. So for this, I would suggest on choosing the 6 colors option because you don't want too many colors. You want the whole object here, of course, as I had told before, is to take in a pixel-based continuous tone image, break it down into chunks that is vectorized. So you'll have a piece that's a certain color here, an adjacent piece that's another color. You're essentially breaking down a photo into a jigsaw puzzle of colors. And this is better shown than it is described. But in my final version here, you can see that there are just chunks of color. Like, for example, my face. You have the light blue here for the highlight, medium tone, medium blue, and then I have a kind of a dark purple for the shadow areas here. So that wasn't created myself. That was something that was done automatically with the image trace function. So let's do that. So I'm going to click on the downward menu, and I'm going to choose 6 colors. It may take a second or two, but it's going to go ahead and do a vector portrait from this. So because there's only 6 colors, it eliminated just about all of the colors in here, and I'm left with this, which doesn't look so bad as it is, but the whole point for you guys is to recolor the 6 color tonal scale to something that's completely unrealistic and fun. Okay, so once you've done your image tracing, you're going to want to bring up your image tracing panel from the window menu. And we're going to do some tweaks here. You might notice that there is a lot of intricate curves and a lot of detail. So what we want to do is minimize detail. So what you're going to do from the image trace menu is you shouldn't have any more than 6 or 8 colors here. 6 usually works quite well. Under the Advanced tab, which you're going to want to open up if it's not already, is we're going to pull down uh, almost all the way to the left-hand side, paths, corners, and noise. So go ahead and do that. And what that does is that simplifies your drawing or your graphic quite a bit. Now, you might think, well, wait a second, I pulled down paths and it was just too much. So you can pull it back up and it will go back to giving you a little bit more detail. And I'm going to pull down noise. I don't need any kind of textural detail on this at all. Oops, I think that was maybe a little bit too much. You want it to look fairly accurate, but you don't want, I'm going to pull up my paths just a little bit more. Okay, that's good. Under method, you're going to want to choose the one on the right, which is overlapping. And the reason why is that will avoid having your puzzle pieces having a little white line in between. That white line would be your stroke. And so that prevents that. So choose overlapping, pull these down to where it's nice and simple, but it's not falling apart. Okay, so once you've done that, you're going to begin recoloring. And this is done as a two-step process. It's done by selecting a tone, and then there's going to be a recoloring task. So you're going to be selecting the very lightest piece, and then you're going to go down in value from there. Now, to get set up to be able to do that, if I go over to my selection tool, I can't select on any of these individual pieces. That's because my image tracing now needs to be expanded. It needs every individual piece needs to be seen as a piece. So because I have my control panel up, I can hit expand. If you do not, go to your properties panel and hit the expand button here. They both do the same thing. Once you do, you can see all of your lines, and this is really cool. However, if I go over to my selection menu, let's say I want to select this light gray here, I still can't do it. It selects everything. So that's because if you go over to your layers panel and open up your primary layer, everything has been grouped. We want to ungroup, okay? You guys have practiced this in a previous lesson. You just go to the select menu and choose, I'm sorry, it's the object menu, my bad, and choose ungroup. Now, every single piece is on its own sublayer. So with my selection tool, if I click on my pasteboard to deselect everything, I can now click over here and select one little piece. Now, because we have things overlapping, I can click and I can drag and I can pull out every single piece. These are now, what you've got here is not a photo anymore. These are a collection of vector shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control Z to put it back. Now, you do not want to manually select every single puzzle piece of the same tone. That could be nearly impossible in some cases. So we're going to choose the select function, where you can select the same kind of fill. So this has got a fill to it. Okay, it's got kind of a warm gray tone to it. And there's all these other little pieces in here that are of the same tone. That's my brightest tint, all right? You're just starting with the brightest, and you're working your way down to the darkest. My eyeball and my eyebrow are my darkest. My sweater here is the darkest. So we're going to start with the lightest. So I'm going to click on one of them, one of the lightest ones. I'm going to go over to Select, Same, and I'm going to choose Fill Color. As you can see, every single piece that has that same fill is now selected. Going back to your Properties panel, you're going to choose this little button here. I love this. This is great. You don't need your image trace any longer, so I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to choose Recolor. I'm going to pull this aside so I can actually see this a little bit better. So the reason why I had you select the brightest tint to the lowest shade is because here it's showing you what your current color is. But I want to do something that's very surreal. This time, I think I'm going to try like a very light green, this. So with this recolor panel, you have two different options on the bottom here. You have one that's brightness and hue, this one here, which is saturation. So I want something that's less saturated, but I do want more of a tint. So I'm going to go back to my other one. Go here, this is a little bit too dark. So now I'm going to use my slider down here on the bottom. If I pull it up, it gets a little bit brighter. So I want this to be more of a tint because this is my brightest and I have 6 of them to do at least, right? So I'm going to start there. And don't worry, if you want to change your colors later, you can use the same method to update your colors. All right, I'm going to start out there. You don't have to hit OK. Let's go on to our next brightest hue. Now, how do you find that? So you're going to click on your selection tool. Your next brightest will usually be right adjacent to the one you've just recolored. So here on my nose, I've got a little piece that's green. That's my newly recolored area. So I'm going to select the piece that's surrounding that. And I'm going to do the same thing. Select menu, same, fill color. Go back to recolor. I have to move this thing aside every single time, and it's annoying, but whatever, that's the breaks. Now this time I'm going to select something that's a little bit darker and maybe more saturated to kind of contrast it. I'm doing the greens here this time, but play around with this wheel here. This will be my lightness. This can adjust saturation too if I want something that's less, electric like that is. But if you want electric green or electric any color, go for it. Okay, so you just simply repeat this all the way down. Now, in my previous example, I have something that's fairly monochromatic. Okay, I've got all cool colors that are analogous. So I started out with like a sky blue and I worked my way down to like a dark burgundy. They were all analogous on the color wheel. You do not have to do that. You can go ahead and choose any colors you want, but what I'm going to be asking you to do is keep your hues somewhat accurate. For example, the darker areas here should be darker colors that you choose, right? And the highlights should be a bright tint. So that's what I'd like you to do. So this is just kind of a rinse and repeat. Once you get going, you can go ahead and select your elements. I'm going to select my next darkest one, which I believe would be here. And I'll choose the same thing, select same, fill color, and then recolor again. This time maybe I want something really crazy like a purple. Okay, I can do that. Okay, the purple and green are complementary to each other. So I might want it to be a little bit darker because this is a darker tone. And then I can just keep going from there. So I can just choose my next one. Remember, I'm choosing adjacent pieces, so I know I'm working from brightest to darkest. Alrighty, well, enjoy this when you're done. After you've created all your different shades, be sure to look at it, make sure you like it, and you can simply choose the select same function under the select menu in order to recolor something if you don't like what you did. So when you're all done, you're going to save your Illustrator document and you're going to hand that in. So enjoy, guys. Have some fun with this, and let's see what you can come up with.